A millionaire divorced her in front of 500 guests, saying, "I can't stand with you anymore." Then their servant walked onto the stage and proposed to her, but she rejected his proposal too. Why? Watch till the end. It's a very, very powerful story for my beautiful family. Hi, my beautiful family. Welcome back to your own family channel. May the Almighty bless every woman with peace that heals, strength that never fades, and a heart so pure it lights every soul around her. May your homes be filled with laughter, your paths be covered in grace, and your days overflow with endless blessings. You are the foundation of love, the silent power that keeps this world standing tall. But my precious family, why do some of you stay silent? It takes just 1 second to like one small comment to lift this family higher. YouTube may try to hide our light, but together we will shine brighter than ever. This is Mission 1000 likes. Let's show the world that love, unity, and faith still win every battle. If your heart is true, like the video. If your love is real, write, "I am with Mr. Peter." There are moments in life when the ground opens beneath your feet, and Diana Ross discovered hers under the glare of 500 pairs of eyes that sparkled with champagne and cruelty. The ballroom stretched before her like a cathedral built for her humiliation. Crystal chandeliers hung from ceilings so high they seemed to touch heaven, casting fractured light across marble floors that reflected her trembling figure in endless repetition. She stood on a stage she never asked to climb, wearing a crimson dress that cost more than the house she grew up in, and felt the weight of every gaze pressing against her skin like brands. Jack Napier stood beside her, microphone in hand, his profile sharp enough to cut. The man she married in a ceremony that graced magazine covers. The man who promised her forever in front of cameras and witnesses and God himself. He was ending forever tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, Jack's voice carried across the ballroom with the ease of a man who had never doubted his right to command attention. "I know you came here to celebrate the opening of my newest hotel chain, but I need to make an announcement that cannot wait." Diana's heart stuttered. She had been standing beside him for 20 minutes while he gave his speech about vision and excellence and the future he was building. She thought he was about to thank her, to acknowledge her presence the way husbands were supposed to acknowledge wives. Instead, his hand found the small of her back, and the touch felt like a shove toward an edge she had not known existed. "I married this woman 18 months ago," he continued, gesturing toward her like she was an object he was selling. "I believed I was making a choice that would complete my life. I was wrong." The ballroom went silent. Not the comfortable silence of anticipation, but the hungry silence of spectators who smelled blood. Diana Ross is a beautiful woman. No one can deny that. But beauty is not enough to build a life on. I confused her face for substance, her presence for partnership, her body for a soul that could match mine. He paused, let the words sink into the crowd like poison into soil. "I cannot stand with her anymore. I'm setting myself free." Diana felt something inside her chest crack open. Not her heart, because that would have been too simple. This was deeper, more fundamental. This was the foundation of who she believed herself to be, shattering into pieces she would never be able to reassemble. She wanted to scream at him, to demand how he could do this in front of everyone they knew, everyone who mattered, everyone who would go home tonight and tell this story with relish. But her voice had disappeared somewhere between his words and her disbelief. The baby fluttered inside her belly. 3 months along, barely visible beneath the empire waist of her dress, a secret she had been holding like a treasure. She planned to tell him tonight after the speeches, after the applause, after they were alone in the car driving home. She had imagined his face when she showed him the ultrasound image hidden in her clutch. Now that image felt like evidence of her stupidity. He was divorcing her while their child grew inside her body, and he did not even know. The crowd erupted into whispers. Diana saw her reflection in the eyes of women who had smiled at her last month, complimented her dress, asked about her marriage with voices like honey. Now those same women looked at her with something worse than pity. They looked at her with satisfaction, as if her destruction confirmed something they had suspected all along, that she was not good enough for this world, that she was an intruder who had been exposed. Diana heard her mother's voice in her head, the warning she had ignored when she brought Jack home to Philadelphia. "That white man is going to use you up and throw you away, baby girl. Men like that don't marry women like us, unless they want something they can discard when they get bored." She had defended Jack with the righteousness of the naive, insisted her mother did not understand him, did not know him the way she did. She had been so certain that love could bridge any divide. She turned to walk off the stage, to escape this nightmare, to find somewhere she could break down in private. Then movement caught her eye. A man in a simple black uniform stepped forward from the shadows where the staff had been standing throughout the evening. Diana recognized him immediately. Lance Morris. He had worked at the Napier estate since before she married Jack, always quiet, always watching her with eyes that held depths she never had time to explore. She knew his face, the way you knew the faces of people who existed in the background of your life, present but not central. He walked onto that stage in front of 500 people. His uniform was pressed and perfect, his posture straight despite the madness of what he was doing. Jack stopped speaking, shocked into silence by the audacity of a servant interrupting his moment. The crowd gasped. Diana stood frozen, unable to process what was happening. Lance dropped to one knee in front of her. Diana Ross. His voice was low but clear, meant for her but heard by everyone. "I know this is not the moment you imagined, but I cannot let another second pass without telling you the truth. I've loved you since the first moment I saw you. I have watched you suffer in silence, watched you dim your light to fit into shadows that were never meant for you. You deserve someone who sees your worth, who treasures your strength, who knows that standing beside you is the greatest honor of his life." He pulled a simple ring from his pocket, nothing like the diamond Jack had given her. "Will you marry me?" The ballroom exploded into chaos. Laughter from some corners, sharp and cutting. Gasps from others. Jack's face twisted with rage, his carefully constructed moment hijacked by a man he paid to serve drinks and clear plates. Diana stared down at Lance, this man kneeling in his servant's uniform, and felt humiliation burn through her like acid. First her husband divorced her in public, announced her inadequacy to everyone who mattered. Now a servant proposed to her like she had fallen so far that even he thought he had a chance. "No." Her voice came out stronger than she expected. "No, I will not marry you." She did not just shake her head. She said the words clearly, loudly, making sure every person in that ballroom heard her rejection, making sure Lance understood that whatever he thought he was doing, whatever rescue he imagined he was performing, she wanted no part of it. She had been humiliated enough for one evening. She would not add marrying a servant to the list of ways Jack Napier had destroyed her. Diana walked off that stage with her head high, even though she could barely see through the tears burning behind her eyes. She walked through the ballroom, through the crowd that parted for her like she carried disease, through the massive doors that led to the street. She heard Jack's voice resume behind her, smooth and controlled, making some joke that turned her tragedy into entertainment. What she did not see was Lance's face as she rejected him. The way his jaw tightened, but his eyes stayed soft. The way he looked at her retreating back, like a man watching his last chance at salvation disappear into darkness. The way he stayed kneeling for 3 seconds longer than necessary, as if prayer could change what had already been decided. Diana stepped into the night alone, feeling the October wind cut through her expensive dress, and placed one hand over her belly where Jack's son was growing. She was 28 years old. She was divorced. She was pregnant. She was utterly, completely alone, and somewhere behind her, a man in a servant's uniform was still kneeling on the stage where her marriage died. Chapter 2. The warnings she ignored. Diana returned to the penthouse at midnight to find her life packed into boxes, not carelessly, as if Jack's staff had thrown her belongings together in anger. No, these boxes were organized, labeled, arranged in the hallway like an art installation titled, "Everything You No Longer Deserve." Her clothes folded precisely, her books stacked by size, her jewelry in velvet cases she did not recognize. Someone had spent hours doing this, had completed the task while she was being destroyed at the gala, as if her removal from Jack's life had been planned down to the minute. The locks on the penthouse door had been changed. Diana discovered this when her key refused to turn, when she stood in the hallway trying to force entry into a home that was no longer hers. A security guard she had never seen before emerged from the stairwell and informed her with clinical politeness that Mr. Napier had left instructions. She was to take her belongings and vacate the building immediately. Any attempt to enter without permission would result in police involvement. A check for $50,000 was tucked into the handle of her largest suitcase. No note, no explanation. Just money, as if cash could silence her, as if this amount would make her disappear quietly into whatever life women like her were supposed to inhabit after men like Jack discarded them. Diana took the check, took the boxes, called a car that cost half her remaining cash and rode to a budget hotel near the highway, where the neon sign flickered like a dying heartbeat. The room smelled like industrial cleaner and the resignation of everyone who had stayed there before her. She sat on the bed with traffic noise bleeding through walls, thin as hope, and let herself break down in ways she could not afford to in public. She cried until her throat was raw, cried until her eyes swelled shut, cried until the baby kicked inside her, as if even her unborn child was telling her to pull herself together. When the tears finally stopped, she felt hollow. Not better, just empty. Diana pulled out her phone, scrolling through contacts she had not called in months. Friends who had drifted away during her marriage to Jack, who stopped inviting her to gatherings because she always declined. Too busy being the perfect wife to a man who was ending their marriage while she carried his child. She could not call them now, could not bear to hear the pity in their voices, the questions about what went wrong, the inevitable judgment that she should have seen this coming. Her finger hovered over her mother's number. Antoinette Ross would answer on the first ring despite the hour, would tell Diana to come home immediately, would gather her daughters around their youngest sister like armor. But Diana could not face that either, could not return to Philadelphia as the cautionary tale her mother always predicted she would become, could not admit that every warning she had ignored was correct. Instead, she sat in that hotel room and remembered the warnings she had received before her wedding. The ones she had dismissed as jealousy or pranks, or the desperate attempts of someone who did not understand what she and Jack shared. Now those warnings felt like prophecy she had been too blind to see. The first letter arrived 6 months before the ceremony. Diana found it slipped under her apartment door when she returned from a fitting for her wedding dress. Plain white envelope, no return address, her name written in careful handwriting that looked almost elegant. She opened it, standing in her doorway, expecting an invitation or advertisement. Diana Ross, you do not know me, but I am writing this because I cannot stay silent. Jack Napier will destroy you. He collects beautiful things the way other men collect art, displays them until they lose their novelty, then discards them when something more interesting comes along. You deserve better than to be his temporary treasure. Please, I am begging you, do not marry him. Run while your heart is still whole. Diana had read the letter twice, then threw it away. She assumed it came from one of Jack's ex-girlfriends, some bitter woman who could not accept that he had moved on, had found someone worth marrying. She told Jack about it that night, laughing as she described the desperate attempt to sabotage their happiness. He barely looked up from his laptop, told her crazy women did crazy things, told her to ignore it. She did. The second warning came 2 months later. Diana was alone in her apartment, packing boxes in preparation for moving into Jack's penthouse after the wedding. Her phone rang at 2 in the morning, an unknown number she almost ignored. But something made her answer, some instinct that this call mattered, even though she could not explain why. Diana Ross. The voice was male, low, urgent, with an accent she could not quite place. Not foreign, but not local either. Something southern, maybe, softened by time spent elsewhere. Who is this? Someone who cares about your future more than you seem to. A pause. Please do not marry Jack Napier. I'm begging you to reconsider. How did you get this number? That does not matter. What matters is that you're about to make a mistake that will break something inside you, something that might never heal properly. Jack Napier is not who you think he is. He will use you and discard you, and by the time you realize the truth, it will be too late. Diana's hand tightened on the phone. This is harassment. I'm calling the police. No, please just listen for one more second. His voice cracked slightly, desperation bleeding through. You deserve someone who will treasure your soul, not just your face. Someone who will learn every scar on your heart and love you more for carrying them. Someone who sees your strength and does not want to break it. That person exists, Diana, but it is not Jack. She hung up, blocked the number, told herself it was a stalker, some deranged person who had seen her engagement announcement in the society pages and fixated on her. She did not tell Jack about this call. Did not want to worry him, did not want him to think she attracted dangerous attention. The third warning arrived the morning of her wedding. Diana was in her bridal suite, surrounded by her bridesmaids, all of them drinking champagne and taking photographs and helping her into a dress that cost more than a year of her former salary. Someone knocked on the door. A hotel employee delivered an envelope addressed to the bride. Diana opened it while her maid of honor adjusted her veil. Another letter, handwriting identical to the first one. Her stomach dropped even before she read the words. This is your last chance. You can still walk away. I know 500 guests are waiting downstairs. I know your dress cost a fortune. I know you have convinced yourself this is the fairy tale you always dreamed of. But fairy tales are not real, Diana, and Jack Napier is the villain pretending to be the prince. If you say yes to him today, you will regret it for the rest of your life. Please, someone out there loves you enough to wait forever. Someone out there will fight for you, protect you, stand beside you through every storm. That person is not waiting for you at the altar. Do not do this. Diana read it standing in her wedding dress, with her friends asking what was wrong. She felt her hands shake, felt doubt creep in like smoke under a door. Then her maid of honor took the letter from her hands, skimmed it quickly, laughed and tossed it in the trash. Some jealous ex trying to ruin your big day. Ignore it. You look like a princess, and Jack is the luckiest man alive. Diana ignored it. She walked down that aisle. She said yes. She kissed Jack, while 500 people applauded, and cameras flashed, and her mother watched with eyes that said, I told you so, without speaking the words aloud. Now, sitting in this hotel room, with her marriage over and her baby growing inside a body Jack no longer wanted, Diana understood. The letters, the phone call, all of them came from the same person. Lance Morris, the servant who loved her enough to try saving her from her own decisions. The man who watched her choose wrong and could not stop himself from warning her. Diana pulled out her phone, scrolled through her contacts until she found the number for the Napier estate. She had called it 100 times during her marriage, always asking for Jack, never paying attention to who answered. This time she asked for someone different. Lance Morris, please. One moment. The voice on the other end sounded surprised. She heard the phone transfer. Heard silence that stretched so long she thought he would not answer. Then his voice, careful and guarded. Diana? It was you, not a question. The letters. The phone call. You tried to stop me from marrying him. The silence lasted forever. When Lance finally spoke, his voice was so quiet she had to press the phone against her ear to hear him. Yes, it was me. I loved you even then. I'm so sorry I could not save you from him. Diana wanted to scream at him, to demand why he thought love from a servant meant anything, why he presumed to interfere in her life, why he could not have let her make her own mistakes in peace. But the words would not come. Instead, she asked the only question that mattered. Why did you propose to me tonight? In front of everyone? Because I could not let you walk away believing you were not worth fighting for. Because Jack made you think you were disposable, and I needed you to know that you are everything. Diana closed her eyes, felt tears slip down her cheeks again. I said no to you in front of 500 people. I humiliated you the way Jack humiliated me. I know. I would let you humiliate me 1,000 times if it meant you knew someone in this world sees your worth. She hung up without saying goodbye, but she did not block his number. Chapter 3. The Pride That Binds Her. Diana woke the next morning in that hotel room, with her face swollen from crying and her body aching from sleeping in a strange bed. For 3 seconds, she forgot what happened. Then memory crashed over her like a wave designed to drown, and she had to press her hand against her mouth to keep from screaming. She could not go home. That truth settled over her with the weight of inevitability. She could not return to Philadelphia, to her mother's house, where she would become the prodigal daughter who failed exactly as predicted. Could not face her sisters who would wrap her in love while their eyes said they knew this would happen. That marrying Jack was always going to end in disaster. Could not become the cautionary tale told at family gatherings. The warning given to younger cousins about white men and money and the price of reaching above your station. Diana checked her bank account on her phone. The $50,000 from Jack, plus the remnants of her own savings. Enough to survive for a few months if she was careful. Not enough to maintain any version of the life she had been living for the past 18 months. She spent the day looking at apartments, touring spaces that felt like stepping backward through time. Everything affordable was small and dark and located in neighborhoods she would have avoided before her marriage. The landlords looked at her expensive clothes and designer purse with suspicion, as if they could smell the desperation underneath her put-together exterior. By evening, she signed a lease on a 1-bedroom apartment in a building that smelled like cooking oil and old carpet. The best she could afford without burning through Jack's money too quickly. Moving in felt like burying herself alive. Diana carried boxes up 3 flights of stairs because the elevator was broken, unpacked her clothes into a closet that could barely hold a fraction of her wardrobe, stared at the stained walls and cracked bathroom tiles, and told herself this was temporary, that she would rebuild, that she would not let Jack's cruelty define the rest of her life. She found a job within the week, a boutique in an upscale neighborhood, selling clothes to women who looked exactly like she used to look. The owner, a brittle woman named Catherine, hired her because Diana knew how to talk to rich women, knew which dress would make them feel powerful, knew the language of luxury, even if she could no longer afford to speak it in her own life. The pay was a fraction of what she needed, but it was something. A place to go, a reason to shower and dress and pretend she was fine. Standing behind that counter, Diana felt her baby growing. The nausea came in waves. The exhaustion hit her like physical blows. She hid it all behind smiles and compliments and the performance of being okay. Every day she served women who reminded her of who she used to be, and every day she swallowed the bitterness of how far she had fallen. Jack's lawyers called constantly, emails, certified letters, phone calls at all hours, demanding she sign papers that would officially end their marriage and waive any claim to his money or property. Diana ignored them all, not because she wanted his wealth. She could not care less about his money, but signing those papers felt like admitting defeat, like confirming that everything he said on that stage was true. She refused to give him that satisfaction. Lance appeared everywhere, not in person at first. Diana would find groceries outside her apartment door when she came home from work. Fresh produce, milk, bread, things she needed but could not quite afford. No notes, no explanations, just food appearing like magic, and she knew exactly who was responsible. Her electric bill came due when she had barely enough to cover rent. Diana stared at the notice threatening disconnection and felt panic claw up her throat. The next day, she received a notification that her account was current, that someone had paid the balance in full. She called the electric company. They told her a payment had been made in her name, that the person wished to remain anonymous. Lance. Flowers appeared on her doorstep every Monday morning. Not expensive arrangements, not the elaborate displays Jack used to send to prove his wealth. These were simple: daisies, sunflowers, wildflowers in mason jars, beautiful in their modesty. Diana threw them all away, carried them directly to the dumpster behind her building without even bringing them inside. She would not accept charity from a man who had humiliated her, who thought one public proposal earned him the right to insert himself into her life. The 4th week after the divorce, Lance showed up at the boutique. Diana was helping a customer when she saw him through the window, standing on the sidewalk like he was gathering courage. Her heart lurched. Part anger, part something she refused to name. She watched him push open the door, watched him scan the store until he found her. He waited until her customer left. Then he approached the counter where she stood, arms crossed, defenses raised high enough to keep out armies. "Diana, you need to stop," she said before he could continue. "Stop leaving food. Stop paying my bills. Stop sending flowers. Stop following me like I'm some damsel who needs saving. I'm not trying to save you." "Then what are you doing?" Her voice rose and she forced it back down. "What do you call this, Lance? What do you call showing up at my job, stalking me, inserting yourself into my life uninvited? I call it caring about someone who deserves care. I do not need your care. I do not need anything from a man who proposed to me in front of 500 people, like I was so desperate I would marry anyone." Lance flinched, but his eyes never left hers. "That's not why I proposed. I proposed because I love you, and I could not let you walk away from that stage believing you were worth nothing." "Well, congratulations. You made everything worse. You turned my humiliation into a spectacle. You made me the woman so pathetic that even the servant thought he had a chance." "You are not pathetic." His voice was quiet but fierce. "You are the strongest woman I have ever known. You are brilliant and kind and so beautiful it hurts to look at you. Jack is the pathetic one, Diana. He had everything and threw it away because his ego was more important than your heart." Diana felt tears burn behind her eyes, but she blinked them back. "I need you to leave me alone. I need you to stop trying to rescue me. Stop trying to fix my life. Stop acting like you have any right to be part of my story. I cannot do that. You do not get a choice." "Yes, I do." Lance stepped closer to the counter. "I get to choose to love you even when you push me away. I get to choose to make sure you have food and electricity and flowers, even if you throw them away. I get to choose to stand at a distance and watch over you because the alternative is pretending you do not matter to me, and that is something I cannot do." "Why?" The question tore out of her. "Why do you even care? I'm nobody to you. I was just the wife of the man you worked for. You do not know me. I know you better than you think." Lance's eyes held hers with an intensity that made her want to look away. "I know you love Basquiat and Nina Simone. I know you bite your lower lip when you are thinking. I know you take your coffee black with 1 sugar and you cannot stand the sound of people chewing. I know you cry during sad commercials, but pretend you are not crying. I know you have a scar on your left knee from falling off your bike when you were 7. I know your favorite color is burgundy, not red, and there is a difference. I know all of this because I have been paying attention for 2 years, Diana. I've been watching you, learning you, falling in love with every detail, even the ones you try to hide." She stared at him. "That is terrifying." "I know, but it is also true." Catherine emerged from the back room, gave Lance a look that said customers only, and he took the hint. He walked toward the door, then paused and turned back. "Will you have dinner with me? Please, just 1 meal. Give me 1 chance to show you that I am more than a servant who humiliated you." "No." Diana did not hesitate. "The answer is no, Lance. It will always be no." He nodded like he expected that answer, like he had been prepared for rejection. Then he left without another word. That night, Diana vomited from morning sickness for the first time. She knelt on her bathroom floor, emptied her stomach into a toilet that did not flush properly, and felt her baby kick inside her like a reminder that she was not alone. The father of her child wanted nothing to do with her. The man who wanted everything to do with her was someone she barely knew, someone she had already rejected, someone she would keep rejecting because accepting help felt like admitting she could not survive on her own. She thought about Lance's face when she said no, the way he nodded, the way he left without argument, the way he looked at her like she was the moon and he was a man who had forgotten the sun existed. Diana rinsed her mouth, splashed water on her face, stared at her reflection, and saw a woman who was not sure anymore if her pride was protecting her or destroying her. She did not call Lance that night. But she did not throw away the flowers that appeared on her doorstep the next Monday either. She brought them inside, put them in a glass of water, told herself it was wasteful to throw away perfectly good flowers, not that she wanted them, not that they meant anything at all. Chapter 4. The Illness That Breaks Her. The collapse came on a Wednesday afternoon during the lunch rush. Diana had been feeling dizzy all morning, her vision swimming every time she stood too quickly. She ignored it the way she ignored everything her body tried to tell her, ignored the fatigue that made her legs feel like concrete, ignored the nausea that never fully left, ignored the headache that pounded behind her eyes like a warning drum. She had bills to pay, rent due in a week, no room for weakness. She was showing a customer address when the floor tilted sideways. One moment she was standing, holding expensive fabric, explaining how the cut would flatter. The next moment the boutique spun around her like a carousel gone wrong, and her knees buckled. She heard the customer scream, heard Catherine shouting her name. Then the world went black. Diana woke to fluorescent lights burning her eyes and an IV needle in her arm. Hospital. The smell of antiseptic and illness. Machines beeping in rhythm with her heartbeat. She tried to sit up, and a hand gently pushed her back down. Lance sat in the chair beside her bed. Fury and relief crashed through her in equal measure. "How did you know I was here?" "Catherine called me." "Why would she call you?" "Because my number is the one you called most often on your phone after Jack's. She scrolled through your recent calls and picked me." Diana wanted to argue, to demand he leave, to tell him he had no right to be here. But exhaustion pressed her into the hospital bed like gravity had doubled, and she could not find the energy to fight. "Where is Catherine?" "She left after I arrived. She has a store to run." A doctor entered before Diana could respond. Dr. Martinez, according to her name tag, with kind eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor that reminded Diana of her mother. She pulled up a stool beside the bed and spoke with the bluntness of someone who refused to sugarcoat. "You collapsed from severe anemia and dehydration. Your blood work shows malnutrition, vitamin deficiencies, and stress markers that are through the roof. You are pregnant, which I assume you know, and your baby is at risk. Not immediate danger, but headed there fast if you do not make serious changes." "What kind of changes?" "Complete bed rest for at least 2 weeks. Proper nutrition, which means 3 meals a day with foods rich in iron and folic acid. Prenatal vitamins, which you have not been taking. Regular checkups with an obstetrician, which you have been skipping. Miss Ross, you are not taking care of yourself, and your baby is suffering for it." Shame burned through Diana's chest. "I have been working. I need to work. You need to rest. Working yourself into the ground helps no one, especially not the child depending on you for survival." Dr. Martinez went through a list of instructions while Diana's mind spun with logistics she could not afford. Bed rest meant no work. No work meant no paycheck. No paycheck meant no rent, no food, no way to survive. She had some of Jack's money left, but not enough to cover weeks of not working. She would have to dip into her emergency fund, the small savings she had been protecting like a life raft. The doctor left. Lance stayed. Diana stared at the ceiling and felt tears slide down her temples into her hair. "How much?" Lance's voice was quiet. "How much what?" How much does the hospital bill cost?" How much do you need to cover rent while you rest? How much for food and vitamins and doctor visits? Tell me the number, Diana. No, you are going to let your pride kill you and your baby. The words hit her like a physical blow. Diana turned her head to look at him, this man sitting beside her hospital bed, like he had every right to be there. His eyes held no judgment, no superiority, just concern that looked too real to be performance. Why do you care this much? Her voice broke. Why do you keep showing up when I keep pushing you away? What do you want from me, Lance? Nothing. I want nothing from you, except the chance to make sure you are okay. That is all I have ever wanted. Nobody does that. Nobody cares about someone for no reason. I have a reason. I love you. Diana laughed, but it came out bitter. You do not love me. You do not know me. You love some idea of me you built in your head while you worked for my ex-husband. Lance leaned forward, elbows on his knees, hands clasped together. I know you hate mushrooms, but love mushroom soup. I know you hum when you are nervous. I know you talk to yourself when you think no one is listening, giving yourself pep talks in the mirror before big events. I know you call your mother every Sunday, but you have not called her since the divorce because you cannot bear to tell her she was right. I know you sleep on the left side of the bed even when the right side is empty. I know your middle name is Marie, after your grandmother who raised you when your father left. I know you wanted to study art history in college, but switched to something practical because practical was what your family needed. I know you, Diana, not an idea, you. She stared at him, heart pounding. That is invasive. That is love. It is obsession. Maybe, but it is also the only honest thing I have ever felt. Dr. Martinez returned with discharge papers and a prescription list. Lance paid the hospital bill before Diana could argue. He took her home despite her protests. He did not ask permission. He simply helped her into a car, drove her to her apartment, and walked her up the 3 flights of stairs when the elevator remained broken. Diana expected him to leave once she was safely inside. Instead, he looked around her tiny apartment with eyes that saw everything she had been hiding. The empty refrigerator, the past-due bill stacked on the counter, the mattress on the floor because she sold her bed frame to make rent last month. I'm staying, he said before she could argue. No, you are not. Diana, you can barely stand. You need someone here to make sure you eat, take your vitamins, rest like the doctor ordered. You can hate me. You can throw things at me. You can ignore me completely. But I am not leaving you alone when you need help. I do not need help. Yes, you do. And I am offering it. The question is whether you are going to let your pride kill you and your baby, or whether you are going to accept help from someone who wants to give it freely. Diana sat on her couch, exhausted beyond measure, and felt something inside her surrender. Not her heart, not her trust, just her resistance. She was so tired of fighting, so tired of pretending she was okay, so tired of carrying this alone. You can stay tonight, but you sleep on the couch and you leave in the morning. Deal. Lance did not leave in the morning. He woke before dawn, and Diana emerged from her bedroom to find him already cooking breakfast. Not fancy food, just scrambled eggs and toast, but the smell made her stomach growl with a hunger she had been ignoring for weeks. She sat at her small table, and he placed a plate in front of her without comment. They ate in silence, but it was not uncomfortable. It was the silence of 2 people who understood that words were not always necessary. He stayed the second day, made her lunch, reminded her to take the prenatal vitamins Dr. Martinez prescribed, sat on the opposite end of the couch while she tried to read a book, but mostly just dozed. He never tried to touch her, never invaded her space, just existed in her apartment like he belonged there, and Diana found she did not hate it as much as she thought she would. By the 3rd day, Diana stopped telling him to leave. Lance seemed to understand this was permission, unspoken but real. He developed a routine, woke early, made breakfast, helped her to the bathroom when she was too weak to walk alone, waiting outside the door until she called for him. He never commented on her body, never made her feel ashamed of needing help. He just provided what she needed with a quiet grace that made her chest ache. He cooked meals she did not know he could make. Chicken soup from scratch that tasted like healing. Spinach and beans because Dr. Martinez said she needed iron. Sweet potato mash because the baby seemed to tolerate it better than other foods. Lance never asked if she liked what he made. He just put plates in front of her and waited until she ate. His eyes tracking every bite like he could with the food to make her stronger. On the 5th night, Diana woke from a nightmare about Jack. She was back on that stage, and he was divorcing her again. But this time, the entire crowd was laughing. She woke gasping, disoriented, her hand pressed against her belly where the baby kicked in agitation. Lance appeared in her doorway within seconds, backlit by the living room lamp he left on all night. "Diana, are you okay? Just a bad dream. Do you want to talk about it?" "No." He nodded, turned to leave, and Diana surprised herself by calling him back. "Wait, can you just stay here for a minute?" "Not in the bed, just in the room. I do not want to be alone right now." Lance sat in the chair near her door, close enough to provide presence, but far enough to respect boundaries. Diana lay in the darkness, listening to him breathe, and felt her heartbeat slow back to normal. She fell asleep like that, and when she woke in the morning, he was gone. But there was a glass of water on her nightstand that had not been there before, with her vitamins beside it. They talked during those 2 weeks in ways Diana had never talked to anyone. Lance told her about his mother, a woman named Ruth, who worked 3 jobs cleaning houses and offices to keep her son fed. How she would come home exhausted, hands raw from chemicals, and still help him with homework. How she died from a stroke when he was 19, working herself to death so he could have opportunities she never dreamed of. "I did not get to say goodbye," Lance said one afternoon while they sat on the couch together, Diana's feet propped on pillows to reduce swelling. "I was at school taking a final exam. By the time I got to the hospital, she was already gone. I never got to tell her that everything she sacrificed mattered, that I understood what she gave up for me." "She knew," Diana said quietly. "Mothers always know when their children understand." "How can you be sure?" "Because I can already feel it. This baby is barely formed, and I already know I would do anything for him. Your mother felt that every single day of your life." Lance looked at her with eyes that held too much emotion to name. "You're going to be an incredible mother." Diana told him about her father leaving when she was 6, how he walked out one morning to buy cigarettes and never came back, how her mother worked at a diner, feet aching from standing all day, while Diana's grandmother stepped in to raise 4 girls on nothing but social security and determination. How her grandmother, Grandma Marie, taught her that beauty was a tool, but brain was a weapon, that she should use both to get ahead, but never let anyone reduce her to just one. "She died right before I graduated college," Diana said, her voice thick with old grief. "I wanted her at my graduation so badly. Wanted her to see that I made it, that everything she taught me worked. But she had a heart attack 3 weeks before commencement. I walked across that stage holding her picture. She would have been so proud of you." "I do not know. I think I disappointed her when I married Jack. She met him once, and I could see in her eyes that she did not approve. But she did not say anything because she knew I would not listen. You have not disappointed anyone, Diana. You made choices that seemed right at the time. That is all any of us can do." On the 10th night, Diana's phone rang. Her mother. Diana stared at the screen, panic rising in her throat. She had not spoken to her mother since before the divorce, had avoided all calls because she could not bear to admit what happened. Lance saw her face. "You do not have to answer. She will just keep calling. She always does. Then answer. I will give you privacy." But Diana found she did not want him to leave. She answered the call while Lance sat beside her, close enough to provide support, but not close enough to hear both sides of the conversation. "Baby girl, where have you been? I have been calling for weeks." Her mother's voice was sharp with worry and frustration. "I'm sorry, Mama, I have been busy." "Too busy to call your mother?" "Diana Marie Ross, you tell me right now what is going on." Did that white man do something to you? Diana felt tears well up. He divorced me, Mama. He divorced me in front of everyone at his gala. I'm living in a small apartment now. I'm working at a boutique. I'm doing fine. Silence on the other end. Then her mother's voice, softer, but still edged with steel. You come home right now. You pack whatever you need and you come back to Philadelphia where your family can take care of you. I cannot do that. Why not? Because I need to do this on my own. I need to prove I can survive without running home every time something goes wrong. You are my daughter. You do not need to prove anything to me. You just need to come home. Diana wiped tears off her face with the back of her hand. I will come visit soon. I promise. But right now I need to stay here. I need to figure out who I am without Jack, without anyone telling me what to do. Her mother sighed, and Diana could picture her sitting in their old kitchen, worry lines deep around her eyes. You are just like your grandmother. Too stubborn for your own good. But I am here when you are ready. Your sisters are here. We love you, baby girl. I love you too, Mama. Diana hung up and immediately started crying. Not the quiet tears she had been shedding for weeks, but full sobs that shook her whole body. Lance did not hesitate. He wrapped his arms around her and let her cry against his chest, one hand smoothing circles on her back, the way you would comfort a child. I lied to her, Diana gasped between sobs. I lied to my mother. I did not tell her I'm pregnant. I did not tell her I'm barely surviving. I just lied and pretended everything is fine. You can tell her the truth when you are ready. When will I be ready? When will any of this feel less like I am drowning? I do not know. But I am here until you figure it out. Diana cried herself out, and when the tears finally stopped, she realized she was still leaning against Lance. His shirt was soaked from her tears, but he had not moved, had not complained, had just held her while she fell apart. Thank you, she whispered. You do not have to thank me. Yes, I do. You have been here every day. You have taken care of me when you did not have to. You have been kinder to me than I deserve. Diana, you deserve every kindness in the world. You just have not been shown that enough. She looked up at him, their faces close enough that she could count his eyelashes. For a moment she thought about kissing him, just to see what it would feel like. Just to test whether this connection between them was real or just her desperation, searching for something to hold on to. But she did not. Instead, she pulled back, put distance between them again. I should get some rest. Dr. Martinez said rest was important. Of course. Lance stood immediately, respecting the boundary she just re-established. I will be on the couch if you need anything. Diana went to her bedroom and lay in the darkness, her hand on her belly where the baby was growing. She thought about Lance on her couch, sacrificing his own comfort to make sure she was safe. She thought about how he cooked for her, how he reminded her to take her vitamins, how he held her while she cried about lying to her mother. She thought about how none of this felt like obligation. It felt like something deeper, something she was not ready to name. On the 14th day, when Dr. Martinez cleared her to return to work, Lance packed his few belongings into a small bag. Diana watched him from the couch, feeling something strange twist in her chest. Her apartment was about to be empty again, and she realized she did not want that. She had gotten used to his presence, had gotten used to waking up to the smell of breakfast cooking, had gotten used to him being there. Thank you, she said when he was ready to leave. For everything. For taking care of me. You do not have to thank me. Yes, I do. You did not have to do any of this. You chose to, and I am grateful. Lance walked to where she sat and knelt in front of her, taking her hands in his. Diana, I want you to understand something. Taking care of you was not a burden. It was a privilege. These past 2 weeks have been the best 2 weeks of my life, because I got to be near you. I got to make sure you were okay. That is all I ever want. To make sure you are okay. I still do not understand why. Because I love you. And love means showing up even when you are not wanted. Love means caring when caring is all you can do. Love means standing at a distance and watching over someone, because being shut out completely would be unbearable. Diana looked at their joined hands. I do not love you, Lance. I know. I might never love you. I know that too. Then why do you keep doing this? Because loving you is not about what I get in return. It is about what I can give. And I can give you care and safety and someone who will never ever treat you the way Jack did. That is enough for me. He stood, picked up his bag and walked to the door. Diana stood too, following him, and found herself speaking before she thought about the words. Wait, can you come back tomorrow? Just to check on me. Make sure I am doing okay going back to work. Lance turned, and his smile was like sunrise breaking through storm clouds. I would love to. After he left, Diana stood in her apartment that smelled like the meals he cooked, that felt less empty than it had in months. And she wondered if, maybe, just maybe, she had been wrong about him. She still did not love him, but for the first time, she thought perhaps she could learn how. Chapter 5. The Thawing. Lance kept his distance for 3 days after leaving Diana's apartment, and she hated how much she noticed his absence. No groceries appeared outside her door. No surprise payments for bills she struggled to cover. No flowers on Monday morning, just silence, and Diana found herself checking her phone more often than she wanted to admit, scrolling through contacts, her finger hovering over his name without pressing call. On the 4th day, she broke. Her next prenatal appointment loomed, and the thought of taking the bus while pregnant and still weak made exhaustion settle into her bones before she even tried. She could call a car, but those were expensive. She could ask Catherine for time off to go alone, but her boss had already been gracious about the 2 weeks she missed. Diana stared at her phone for 20 minutes before finally texting Lance. Can you take me to my appointment tomorrow? I will pay you for gas. His response came within seconds. I will be there. Keep your money? He arrived 15 minutes early, and when Diana opened her apartment door, she was struck again by how he looked at her, like she was something precious. Like standing in her presence was a gift he had not earned. She hated how that look made her feel, hated that part of her wanted to deserve it. They drove in comfortable silence. Lance did not fill the air with nervous chatter, did not ask invasive questions, just drove and occasionally glanced at her like he was checking she was real. At the clinic, he stayed in the waiting room while she went in for her ultrasound. And when the technician asked if she wanted to know the sex of her baby, Diana surprised herself by saying yes. It is a boy, the technician said with a smile, pointing to the screen where grainy images showed a tiny human growing inside her. A healthy, strong boy. Diana stared at that screen and felt something shift in her chest. A boy, Jack's son, her son. A child who would grow up knowing his father divorced his mother before knowing she existed, that his father threw them both away like they meant nothing. She pressed her hand against her stomach and made a silent promise that her son would never feel unwanted, never feel like he was a mistake, never feel anything except loved. When she returned to the waiting room, Lance stood immediately, his eyes searching her face. Everything okay? It is a boy. His entire face transformed. Pure joy mixed with something sacred, like she had just told him the most important news he would ever hear. A boy! Diana, that is incredible. It is just the sex of the baby, not a miracle. It is a miracle to me. They went to lunch at a small cafe Diana had passed 100 times, but never entered. The kind of place with checkered tablecloths and food that smelled like someone's grandmother made it with love. Lance asked her about her life before Jack, and Diana found herself talking about things she had not spoken about in years. Growing up in Philadelphia with 3 older sisters who treated her like a living doll. Her father leaving when she was 6, vanishing without explanation, leaving her mother to raise 4 daughters alone on a salary that never stretched far enough. Her grandmother who stepped in, fierce and funny and determined that poverty would not steal her granddaughters' futures. She made me believe I could be anything, Diana said, stirring sugar into her coffee. She told me beauty was a tool, not a destiny, that I should use my face to open doors, but make sure my brain and heart were what kept me in the room. She sounds like an incredible woman. She was. She died when I was in college. I think part of me has been trying to make her proud ever since. She would be proud. You are stronger than you give yourself credit for. Diana looked at him across that small table. Why do you say that? Because you survived, Jack. Because you are building a life from nothing. Because you are going to be an amazing mother. Because you are sitting here with me even though I know you do not want to. Which means you are willing to give people chances even when they do not deserve them. Maybe I'm just desperate for a ride to doctor appointments. Maybe, but I do not think so. Over the next 2 months, this became their routine. Lance took her to every prenatal appointment, waited in lobbies while she saw doctors, never asked to be included unless she invited him. They started having lunch afterward, sitting in that same cafe, talking about everything and nothing. Diana learned about his dreams of building something meaningful, something that would last beyond his lifetime. He never mentioned specifics, never talked about money or success or the things men usually bragged about. He talked about legacy and impact and wanting to matter. Diana told him about her abandoned dream of opening her own gallery someday, a space that showcased artists who looked like her, whose work challenged and inspired and reflected the complexity of black life beyond the narrow stories white galleries deemed acceptable. Her voice got soft when she talked about it, like she was sharing something too fragile to expose to full light. That is not a dead dream, Lance said. That is a dream waiting for the right moment. The right moment is gone. I cannot afford to chase dreams when I have a baby coming. Dreams do not disappear because circumstances change. They just evolve. They started taking walks in the park near her apartment. Slow walks because Diana tired easily, but walks nonetheless. Lance never rushed her, never showed frustration when she needed to sit and rest. He told her stories about his childhood, about his mother who cleaned houses to keep him fed, about learning to read from newspapers left behind at the homes she cleaned. She died when I was 19, he said one afternoon while they sat on a bench watching children play. She never got to see me build anything. Never knew if her sacrifices mattered. They mattered. Look at you. I wish she could have seen it. Diana reached out without thinking, put her hand over his. She would be proud of you. Lance looked at their joined hands, like she had given him something priceless. Thank you. She pulled her hand back, uncomfortable with the intimacy of the gesture. But part of her wanted to reach for him again. The second proposal came on a Wednesday in the park. Diana was 5 months pregnant, her belly finally showing in ways she could not hide. They had been talking about baby names, and Lance suggested Elijah. Diana loved it immediately, though she would not tell him that. He stopped walking and turned to face her. Diana, I know I asked you once before, and you said no. I know I have no right to ask again, but I cannot stop myself. Lance, do not. Will you marry me? Let me be a father to your son. Let me give you both the life you deserve. Let me stand beside you, not because you need me, but because I need you. I told you the answer would always be no. I know, but I am asking anyway, because I have to try. Because I love you, and I cannot imagine my life without you in it. Diana looked at this man, who had become her constant, who showed up without being asked, who made her feel safe in ways she had forgotten were possible. No, Lance, I am not going to marry you. He nodded like he expected that answer. Can I ask why? Because I do not love you. Because this baby deserves a father who is here by choice, not obligation. Because marrying you would be using you, and I will not do that. It would not be using me if I am offering freely. It would still be wrong. They walked back to her apartment in silence, and Diana felt something ache in her chest that she refused to name. The third proposal came at the clinic after her ultrasound at 24 weeks, when they confirmed her son was healthy and growing perfectly. Lance had been holding the sonogram image, staring at it like it contained the secrets of the universe, when he suddenly dropped to one knee right there in the waiting room. Diana Ross, will you marry me? Get up, Lance. People are staring. Let them stare. Will you marry me? No. I already told you no. Tell me again tomorrow. I will ask again tomorrow, and you can say no again. But I will keep asking, because someday you might say yes. I will never say yes. Never is a long time. The fourth proposal happened when her car broke down late one night on the highway. Diana had been driving home from a double shift at the boutique, exhausted beyond reason, when smoke started pouring from her hood. She barely managed to pull onto the shoulder before the engine died completely. She sat in that broken car on the side of the road, rain pounding against the windows, and called Lance because there was no one else. He arrived within 30 minutes, soaking wet from the rain, and he did not say a single word about her calling him. He just wrapped his coat around her shoulders and helped her into his car. "Will you marry me?" he asked while driving her home. "Lance, not now." "Yes, now. Because you called me when you needed help. Because you have my number memorized. Because you trust me enough to rescue you. That means something. It means I had no other options. You had other options. You chose me." My answer is still no, I know. But I am still asking. The fifth proposal never came the way Diana expected. She was 7 months pregnant, crying in her bathroom because nothing fit anymore, because she felt huge and ugly and alone. She had been sobbing for over an hour when she heard her apartment door open, heard Lance's footsteps, heard him call her name, with worry threading through his voice. She had given him a key weeks ago, during a moment of weakness, when she fell in the shower and could not get up alone. He used it now, finding her on the bathroom floor, mascara running down her face, hands pressed against her enormous belly. He knelt beside her without hesitation. "Diana, what is wrong? I am falling apart. I cannot do this. I cannot be a mother. I cannot raise a baby alone. I cannot stop crying. I'm a disaster, Lance, a complete disaster. You are the most beautiful woman I have ever seen. I look like a whale. You look like a miracle. You are growing a human being inside your body. You are creating life. That is the most beautiful thing in the world." Diana laughed through her tears. "You are delusional." "Maybe, but I am also honest." He sat beside her on the bathroom floor, not caring that the tiles were wet from her tears. "Diana, I'm going to tell you something, and I need you to listen. I know you do not love me. I know you may never love me, but I am begging you to let me love you anyway. Lance, please just let me finish. I want to be a father to your son. I want to give you the life you deserve. I want to wake up every day knowing I get to stand beside you. I do not need you to feel for me what I feel for you. I just need you to let me be part of your life. Let me help you. Let me be there. That is all I'm asking." Diana looked at this man sitting on her bathroom floor, this man who had shown up for her again and again, despite every rejection, every wall, every reason she gave him to walk away. She thought about the past months, the way he had become the most constant thing in her life, the way she looked forward to seeing him, the way his presence made her apartment feel less empty, the way he talked to her belly every time they were together, reading stories to her son, playing music, making promises to a child who was not his. "Okay," she whispered. "Okay, what?" "Okay, I will marry you. Not because I love you, but because I am tired of being alone. Because you have been here when no one else was. Because my son deserves a father who actually wants to be his father. But I need you to understand something, Lance. I am not in love with you. I may never be. This is a partnership, not a romance. I understand. You are going to regret this someday. You are going to wake up and realize you married a woman who cannot give you what you deserve. I'm going to wake up every day, grateful that you said yes." They sat on that bathroom floor together, and Diana let Lance hold her while she cried. She did not cry from sadness this time. She cried from relief, from exhaustion, from the overwhelming feeling that maybe, just maybe, she was going to survive this after all. Chapter 6. The Marriage Built on Sand. They married on a Thursday in a courthouse that smelled like floor polish and bureaucracy. No guests, no flowers, No photographer capturing the moment for posterity. Just Diana in a simple cream dress that accommodated her 8-month pregnant belly, and Lance in a suit that seemed too nice for a servant, but not nice enough to make her question who he really was. They stood before a judge who looked bored, repeated vows that felt both binding and hollow, signed papers that made them legally family. Diana insisted on clarity before they signed anything. They sat in the courthouse hallway on wooden benches that had held countless couples before them, and she laid out terms with the bluntness of someone who refused to be dishonest. I am not in love with you. Lance, I need you to hear that and understand it. I like you. I'm grateful to you. But love is not something I feel, and I cannot promise it will ever develop. I understand. This is a partnership. I need help raising my son, and you are offering to help. That is what this marriage is. Not romance, not passion, not the fairy tale most people dream about. I am not most people. I will take whatever you can give me and ask for nothing more. I cannot promise you physical intimacy. I cannot promise I will ever want that with you. If you need those things, if you need a real marriage in every way, then you need to walk away now before we make this legal. Lance reached for her hand, held it gently between both of his. Diana, I want to be clear about something. I'm not marrying you to fix you or save you or turn you into something you are not. I'm marrying you because I love you exactly as you are. If all I ever get is your friendship and the chance to be a father to your son, that will be enough. That will be more than enough. You are going to regret this. I have never been more certain of anything in my life. They signed the papers. The judge declared them married. Lance kissed her cheek because a kiss on the lips felt like a lie neither of them wanted to tell. They walked out of that courthouse as husband and wife, and Diana felt like she had just made either the best or worst decision of her life. She could not tell which. Lance moved her into a house that weekend. Not a mansion, not the kind of home that screamed wealth, but a comfortable place in a quiet neighborhood with 3 bedrooms and a yard and neighbors who waved from porches. Diana asked how a servant could afford a house like this, and Lance told her he had been saving for years, that he lived frugally, that he wanted to provide a real home for her and the baby. She believed him because she wanted to, because questioning too deeply meant facing possibilities she was not ready to examine. The nursery was already prepared. Lance had spent weeks getting it ready while she was at work, painting walls a soft blue, assembling furniture, hanging curtains that filtered sunlight into something gentle. Diana stood in that doorway and felt her throat tighten at the care evident in every detail. You did all this? I wanted everything to be ready before the baby comes. I wanted you to have one less thing to worry about. You did not have to do this. I wanted to. Their marriage settled into a rhythm that felt both strange and necessary. Lance treated her with a reverence that made Diana uncomfortable after Jack's casual cruelty. He asked permission before touching her, even innocently. He made sure she ate enough, rested enough, took her vitamins. He talked to her belly every night, reading stories about brave princes and magic, playing jazz and classical music from his phone because he read somewhere that babies could hear in the womb. Diana watched him become a father before their son was even born and felt something in her chest crack open. Not love, she refused to call it love, but something softer than the armor she had been wearing since Jack destroyed her. They slept in the same bed because Diana asked him to. She would not admit that she slept better with his presence beside her, that the sound of his breathing made her feel less alone, that waking in the middle of the night to find him there brought comfort she did not want to need. But there was always careful distance between their bodies, always space that neither of them crossed. One night, when Diana could not sleep because the baby kept kicking, Lance told her about his mother, about how she worked 3 jobs to keep him fed and clothed, how she never complained even when exhaustion made her hands shake, how she died from a stroke brought on by years of stress and overwork, how he was not there when it happened because he was at college taking a final exam. I did not get to say goodbye, he said quietly in the darkness. I was building the life she sacrificed for, and I missed the chance to tell her it mattered, that she mattered. Diana reached for his hand under the covers. She knew. How can you be sure? Because mothers always know. We feel it in our bones when we have given our children something that will last beyond us. You are going to be an incredible mother. I am terrified I will mess him up. Everyone is terrified. That is how you know you care enough to do it right. They lay there in the darkness, hands clasped, and Diana felt the careful distance between them shrink just slightly. Diana started asking him questions late at night when they were both lying awake, about his childhood, his dreams, his fears. Lance answered with an honesty that stunned her, never hiding behind walls or performance. He told her about growing up poor in a town that offered nothing to black boys except hard work and low expectations, about putting himself through college on scholarships and desperation, about taking the job with Jack for reasons he still would not fully explain, though Diana stopped pushing when she saw how much the topic pained him. "Why did you stay?" she asked one night. "Why keep working for Jack when the job was beneath you? You are smart enough, capable enough to have done anything. Why waste 2 years serving a man who barely noticed you existed? I stayed because of you. That is the saddest thing I have ever heard. I know, but I do not regret it. If working for Jack meant I got to see you every day, even from a distance, then it was worth every moment." Diana did not know what to say to that, so she said nothing, but she fell asleep with her hand still in his. One evening, they were discussing names while Diana made dinner, and Lance cleaned up behind her because she refused to let him cook every meal. She was 8 months pregnant, moving slowly, her back aching in ways that made her want to cry. "What about Elijah?" Lance suggested. "Elijah Morris." "Elijah Ross Morris," Diana corrected. "He gets my name too, Elijah Ross Morris." "I love that." Diana paused, spatula in hand, realizing what she had said. "I called him our son. I noticed. I meant my son. You said our son." She had. The words had slipped out naturally, without thought, as if some part of her brain had already accepted that Lance was not just her husband on paper, but a father to the child she carried. Diana did not correct herself. She just went back to cooking, and Lance went back to cleaning, and neither of them mentioned it again. That night, Diana fell asleep watching a movie she would not remember. She leaned against Lance's shoulder, and when she woke hours later, his arm was around her. She did not pull away. She told herself it was because moving would wake him. But deep down, in a place she refused to examine too closely, she knew she did not pull away because she did not want to. She still did not love him. But she was starting to think maybe she could learn how. Chapter 7. The Past That Destroys Everything. Diana was 37 weeks pregnant when her past returned to burn down everything she had carefully built. The morning started ordinary. Lance made breakfast while Diana prepared for another day at the boutique. Catherine had been understanding about her pregnancy, allowing her to work shorter shifts, sit when needed, take breaks whenever her body demanded. Diana was determined to work until the baby came, refusing to be the kind of woman who treated pregnancy like an illness. She was folding clothes during the afternoon lull when her phone rang. Unknown number. She almost ignored it, but something made her answer. Diana Napier? A woman's voice, professional and cold. Diana Ross Morris now. "This is Rebecca Chen from Whitmore and Associates. We represent Jack Napier in a legal matter concerning you." Diana's hands went cold. "What legal matter?" "Mr. Napier is filing for full custody of the child you are currently carrying. We will be serving you papers within the hour. I'm calling as a courtesy to inform you that you should retain legal counsel immediately." The world tilted. Diana grabbed the counter to keep from falling. "What are you talking about?" "Jack does not know I am pregnant. He does now. We will be in touch." The line went dead. Diana stood in that boutique, surrounded by expensive clothes, and the sound of her own heartbeat thundering in her ears, and felt panic claw up her throat. Jack knew. Somehow Jack discovered she had been pregnant when he divorced her, that she was about to give birth to his son, that another man's name would be on the birth certificate. She called Lance with shaking hands. He answered on the first ring. "Diana, what is wrong?" "Jack knows about the baby. He is suing for custody. Lance, he wants to take our son." Silence on the other end. Then Lance's voice, harder than she had ever heard it. "Where are you?" "At work. His lawyer just called. They are serving papers." "Lance, what do I do?" "Stay there. I am coming to get you right now. Do not talk to anyone. Do not sign anything. I'm handling this." "How can you handle this?" "He has money and lawyers and power. We cannot fight him." "Yes, we can. Trust me, Diana. I am not letting him take Elijah." Lance arrived within 15 minutes, moving faster than she thought possible. He walked into the boutique, took one look at her face, and wrapped her in his arms. Diana let herself lean against him, let herself absorb his strength, let herself believe for a moment that maybe he was right, that maybe they could fight this. "We need to go," Lance said quietly. "We need to go now." They drove in tense silence. Diana expected Lance to take her home, but instead he pulled up to a building downtown, a sleek structure of glass and steel that looked like money. She stared at it, confused. "Why are we here?" "Because this is where we are going to build our defense. Come with me." They walked into a lobby that felt more like an art gallery than an office building. Sculptures she recognized from museums. Abstract paintings that probably cost more than she made in a year. The security guard greeted Lance by name, which Diana found strange, but she was too overwhelmed to process it. "Good afternoon, Mr. Morris. Should I alert your executive assistant that you are here?" "No need, James. Thank you." They took an elevator to the 30th floor. Diana watched the numbers climb, her stomach churning with each ascending digit. When the doors opened, she saw the words etched in glass across from them, backlit and impossible to miss. Morris Global Enterprises. Her stomach dropped. Her vision swam. She put her hand against the elevator wall to steady herself. "Lance, what is this?" "My office." "Your office?" "You are a servant. You work for Jack. What are you talking about?" Lance turned to face her, and his expression held an agony that made her want to look away. "Diana, I need to tell you something. I should have told you months ago, years ago, but I did not know how, and now everything is falling apart, and I am out of time." "Tell me what?" "I am not a servant. I never was. My name is Lance Alexander Morris, and I'm the founder and CEO of Morris Global Enterprises. I'm worth $47 billion. Diana stared at him. The words made no sense. They were sounds without meaning, syllables that refused to arrange themselves into comprehension. "What?" "I took the job working for Jack because I met you before he did. At a charity gala almost 3 years ago. We talked for 20 minutes about Basquiat and Nina Simone. Then you walked away to get a drink, and I knew I would never meet another woman like you. 3 months later, I saw you again on Jack's arm at another event. I could not let you go. So I took a job in his house, made myself invisible, stayed close enough to make sure you were safe. You are lying." "I am not lying. I wish I was. Every moment of our marriage has been real, Diana. My feelings for you are real. But I hid who I was because I needed you to see me, not my money. I needed to know you could love me for who I am, not what I have." Diana felt her knees buckle. Lance caught her, tried to help her to a chair in the hallway, but she pushed him away. Stumbled to the chair herself. Sat down hard. "You lied to me for 2 years. You watched me struggle. You watched me collapse from exhaustion. You let me think I married a servant when you were a billionaire. I know. I am sorry. I'm so sorry." "Sorry?" Her voice rose, and she did not care who heard. "You built our entire relationship on lies. You manipulated me. You played me like I was some kind of game. No, God, Diana, no. I love you. Everything between us was real, except the money. I never manipulated you. I never lied about my feelings. I just did not tell you about the billions because I was terrified you would think I was trying to buy you, that you would never trust that my feelings were genuine." Diana looked around at the opulent hallway. The expensive art, the polished floors that probably cost more than her entire apartment building. She thought about every moment they spent together, every meal he cooked in her tiny kitchen, every walk they took in the park, every night he slept on her uncomfortable couch, every time he told her he was just a servant who saved his money. Every single moment had been a lie. She remembered him talking about growing up poor, about his mother cleaning houses. Was that even true? Or was that another story he invented to make her trust him? She remembered his simple proposal with the modest ring. Was he laughing at her the whole time, this billionaire pretending to be humble? Get away from me. Diana, please, get away from me right now, or I swear I will scream until security removes you. Lance stood, stepped back, gave her space she desperately needed. But his eyes never left her face, and the pain in them looked too real to be performance. We need to focus on Jack right now. We need to build a defense against his custody suit. After that, you can divorce me if you want. You can hate me forever. But right now, our son needs both of us. Diana wanted to run, wanted to escape this building, this man, this nightmare her life had become. She wanted to get on a bus back to Philadelphia, crawl into her childhood bed, and never come out. But Lance was right. Jack was trying to take her baby. Everything else could wait. What do I need to do? Nothing. I'm going to make some calls. By tomorrow morning, Jack will understand exactly what he is up against. Lance led her to a conference room with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. The view was dizzying. She could see for miles. Could see the neighborhood where she lived, tiny and insignificant from this height. Could see the boutique where she worked, the park where she and Lance took walks, the clinic where she got her prenatal care. Her entire life looked small from up here, disposable, meaningless. She sat in a leather chair that probably cost more than her monthly rent and watched Lance make phone calls. His voice changed when he talked to these people, not the gentle voice he used with her. This was the voice of a man who commanded empires, cold, precise, terrifying in its efficiency. I need our best litigation team ready by tomorrow morning. Full discovery on Jack Napier. I want to know every parking ticket, every unpaid debt, every skeleton in every closet. I want transcripts from the divorce gala. I want witnesses who can testify to his character. I want everything, and I want it yesterday. He made 6 calls in 15 minutes, mobilizing an army of attorneys with resources that seemed endless. Diana listened and felt something inside her crack. This was who he really was. Not the man who knelt on her bathroom floor. Not the man who read stories to her belly. This was Lance Alexander Morris, billionaire, and she did not know him at all. When he finished, he came back to where she sat, knelt in front of her the way he had so many times before. But this time it felt different. This time she could see the performance in it, the calculated gesture of a man who knew how to manipulate. Diana, I know you are angry. I know you feel betrayed. But I need you to trust me one more time. I need you to let me protect our son from Jack. After this is over, after Elijah is safe, you can walk away if you want. I will give you anything you need. A house, money, whatever you want. I will never keep Elijah from you. But please let me help you now. She looked at this stranger wearing a familiar face. I need to go home. I will drive you. No, I need to go home alone. I need to think. I need to figure out who you actually are and who I thought I married. Diana, please, just take me back to my car. I need to be alone right now. Lance drove her back to the boutique in silence. When she got out, he tried one more time. Diana, everything I showed you was real. The love, the care, the devotion, all of that was real. The only thing I hid was the money. The money changes everything, Lance. It means every moment we spent together was based on a lie. It means I do not know you at all. She drove home to the house he owned, the house she now realized he probably bought with pocket change. She walked into the nursery he prepared, seeing it now through different eyes. Nothing was modest. Nothing was the work of a servant scraping by. The furniture was expensive. The decorations were curated. Everything screamed wealth she had been too trusting to see. Diana locked herself in the guest room. She tried to cry but could not. She just sat on the bed, hands on her belly where Elijah kicked and moved, and tried to reconcile the man she fell for with the billionaire who deceived her. Lance knocked on the door an hour later. She told him to go away. He knocked again that night, asked if she needed anything, if she had eaten. She told him to leave her alone. She heard him walk away, heard him settle on the couch downstairs, and she hated that even now, even after everything, part of her wanted to go to him. The legal papers arrived the next morning. Jack was suing for full custody, claiming Diana was unfit, claiming she had trapped him with a pregnancy he never knew about, claiming she married a billionaire the moment her meal ticket divorced her. The accusations were vicious. They painted her as a gold digger, a manipulator, a woman using her child as a weapon. Diana read them sitting at the kitchen table, and Lance read them standing across from her. When she looked up, his face was cold. Not angry. Something worse, calculated, dangerous. "He is going to regret this," Lance said quietly. "How can we possibly win? You have money, but so does he. He is the biological father. What judge is going to give custody to a man who is not even related to the baby?" Lance looked at her with eyes that reminded her he was not just a man who loved her. He was a billionaire who built an empire from nothing. "Diana, I have more money than Jack will ever dream of. I have connections he cannot touch, and I have something he will never have. The truth. The truth is that he divorced you in front of 500 people while you were carrying his child. The truth is that he threw you away like garbage. The truth is that I have been there every single day while he pretended you did not exist. That truth is going to destroy him." Diana stared at the stranger she married. "I do not know if I can ever trust you again." "I know. But right now we have to protect our son. Everything else can wait." She turned away from him, placed her hand on her belly, and prepared for war. But even as she steeled herself to fight Jack, another war raged inside her. The war between loving the man Lance pretended to be and hating the billionaire he actually was. A war she had no idea how to win. Chapter 8. The War for a Son. The custody battle made national headlines within 48 hours. 2 billionaires fighting over a child who was not even born yet. The media descended like locusts, turning Diana's life into entertainment for strangers who had never met her, but felt entitled to judge every choice she made. Cameras followed her to work. Reporters shouted questions she refused to answer. Online articles dissected her marriage to Jack, her pregnancy, her quick remarriage to Lance, with commentary from people who had never walked in her shoes but knew exactly where she had gone wrong. The headlines were brutal. Gold digger caught between 2 billionaires. Pregnant woman's love triangle ends in court. Which billionaire gets the baby? They reduced her life to clickbait, turned her son into a prize to be won, made her pain into a spectacle for public consumption. Diana stopped reading the news after the 3rd day, stopped looking at her phone except to check for calls from Lance's legal team, stopped engaging with a world that wanted to reduce her to a headline and a cautionary tale. She went to work because Catherine let her hide in the back room when customers recognized her. She came home to a house that felt like a museum, filled with expensive things that now felt like evidence of how thoroughly she had been deceived. Lance hired the best legal team money could buy. Not just good lawyers, but the kind of attorneys who made powerful men nervous, who had reputations for destroying opposition with surgical precision. Diana met with them in conference rooms that overlooked the city, listening to strategy sessions that sounded more like battle plans than legal proceedings. The lead attorney was a woman named Patricia Hayes, sharp-eyed and ruthless, who looked at Diana with something like sympathy mixed with calculation. "We are going to win this," Patricia said during their first meeting. "But it will get ugly. Jack's team is going to paint you as opportunistic, manipulative, possibly mentally unstable. They are going to question every choice you made, every relationship you had. Are you prepared for that? Do I have a choice?" "You always have a choice. You can settle. Give Jack visitation rights, shared custody. Find some middle ground that keeps this out of court." Diana looked at this woman, who probably cost more per hour than Diana made in a month. "Can you guarantee Jack will not take my son away from me?" "No one can guarantee anything in family court." "Then we fight." Jack's lawyers came out swinging. They filed motions claiming Diana was an unfit mother who trapped their client with a pregnancy he never knew about, who married a billionaire the moment her meal ticket divorced her, who was clearly using her child as a pawn in a game between rich men. They brought in witnesses who testified that Diana seemed cold during her marriage to Jack, distant, possibly suffering from mental health issues she refused to address. One witness, a woman named Elizabeth who had been friends with Jack's mother, testified that Diana seemed more interested in Jack's money than in building a real marriage. She was always asking about his investments, his properties, what he was worth. It was uncomfortable to watch. Diana listened to this testimony and felt rage burn through her. She had asked about Jack's work because she was trying to be interested in his life, trying to be the supportive wife he claimed to want. Now that interest was being twisted into evidence of gold digging. Another witness, a man who worked at one of Jack's hotels, testified that he saw Diana flirting with Lance during a company event while she was still married to Jack. She was definitely interested in him. The way she looked at him, the way she laughed at his jokes. "I thought it was inappropriate." The event in question was a Christmas party where Lance had served drinks. Diana barely remembered speaking to him beyond thanking him for a glass of wine. Now that interaction was being reframed as evidence of an affair, of her planning to leave Jack for another man all along. Jack's legal team presented their case with ruthless efficiency. They painted Diana as a woman who saw opportunity in pregnancy, who manipulated two rich men, who cared more about financial security than her child's well-being. They brought in a psychologist who testified that Diana's quick remarriage showed signs of instability, of someone seeking validation through relationships with wealthy men. Diana sat in that courtroom every day, 9 months pregnant, and then days from giving birth, listening to strangers dissect her life. Lance sat behind his legal team, never more than 20 feet from her, his eyes following her every movement as if he could protect her through sheer force of will. Diana refused to look at him, had not spoken to him beyond logistics since discovering the truth about his wealth. They lived in the same house but existed in separate worlds. She slept in the guest room. He slept on the couch because he refused to use their bedroom while she was exiled from it. They passed each other like ghosts, connected by necessity but divided by betrayal. Lance's team countered with evidence that was equally brutal. They showed hospital records documenting Diana's collapse from stress and malnutrition during her marriage to Jack. They brought in Dr. Martinez, who testified about Diana's condition when she was admitted, about how she was working herself to death because Jack left her with nothing. Catherine took the stand and described Diana's work ethic, her determination to survive, her pride that would not let her ask for help. She was 7 months pregnant and still standing on her feet for 8-hour shifts. I told her to rest, to take time off, but she refused. She was not trying to trap anyone or manipulate anyone. She was just trying to survive. They documented Lance's presence at every medical appointment, his financial support, his care during Diana's hospitalization. They made a timeline showing Lance's consistent involvement from the moment Diana collapsed, painting him as a devoted partner, while Jack was living his life as if Diana had never existed. During a break in the second week of testimony, Jack cornered Diana in the hallway outside the courtroom. Lance was speaking with their attorneys, and Diana had stepped away to use the restroom. Jack materialized beside her, his cologne expensive and familiar, and she felt her body tense. "We can end this," Jack said quietly, his voice pitched for her ears only. "Come back to me. Give me another chance. We can raise our son together the way we should have from the beginning." Diana stared at this man who divorced her in public, who threw her away when she was carrying his child, who only wanted her back now because another man claimed what he discarded. "You think I would ever come back to you?" I made a mistake. I was angry. I was under pressure from my family and my partners. They said marrying you was bad for my image, that I needed to cut ties before you damaged my reputation. I listened to them instead of listening to my heart. Your heart? Diana's voice was quiet but filled with venom. You do not have a heart, Jack. You have an ego, and I bruised it somehow, and you destroyed me for it. You stood on a stage in front of 500 people and told them I was not good enough for you. You made me feel like I was nothing. I was wrong. I see that now, but we can fix this. We can be a family. Diana stepped closer to him, close enough that he could see the fury in her eyes. You had your chance to be a father. You threw it away the moment you decided your reputation mattered more than the woman you married. Now you want to take my son because your pride cannot handle that someone else gets what you discarded. But you are not getting him, Jack. I will make sure of it. Jack's expression hardened into something ugly. You are going to regret choosing that servant over me. I am going to take my son, and you are going to spend the rest of your life knowing you lost him because of your pride. His name is Lance, and he is more of a man than you will ever be. Jack walked away, and Diana felt her hands shake with rage and fear in equal measure. She did not tell Lance about the confrontation, could not bear to look at him, to acknowledge that the man she was defending was the same man who lied to her for 2 years. The trial entered its 3rd week, and Diana went into labor during testimony. She was sitting in the courtroom, listening to a character witness describe her as manipulative, when she felt water gush down her legs. The pain came seconds later, sharp and overwhelming, and she gasped. Lance was on his feet instantly, pushing past attorneys and court staff to reach her. Diana, are you okay? The baby. He is coming! The courtroom erupted into chaos. The judge called a recess. Lance tried to help Diana stand, but she pushed him away, even as another contraction hit. Do not touch me. Just get me to the hospital. Diana, please let me help you. I do not want your help. I just want to get to the hospital. Patricia Hayes materialized beside them, efficient and commanding. I have a car waiting. Lance, help her walk, or she's going to collapse right here. Diana had no choice but to lean on Lance as he helped her out of the courtroom, past cameras and reporters shouting questions, into a black car that drove them to the hospital at speeds that should have been illegal. Another contraction hit in the car, and Diana grabbed Lance's hand without thinking, squeezed it hard enough to hurt. She did not let go even when the pain subsided. At the hospital, everything moved fast. Nurses, doctors, monitors beeping. Pain that felt like her body was tearing itself apart. Lance stayed beside her, even though she told him to leave. Even though she cursed him between contractions, even though she screamed at him that she hated him and never wanted to see him again. I know, he said quietly while she gripped his hand hard enough to leave marks. I know you hate me, but I am not leaving. Not now. Elijah Ross Morris was born at 3 in the morning after 12 hours of labor. 10 pounds of screaming perfect baby boy with dark eyes and his father's nose. The nurses placed him on Diana's chest, and she forgot about the pain, forgot about the trial, forgot about everything except this tiny human who depended on her for everything. Lance stood beside the bed, looking at Elijah with an expression Diana could not read, wonder, fear, love so intense it hurt to witness. He is perfect, Lance whispered. Diana, he is perfect. She wanted to say something cruel, to remind him he had no right to this moment, that his lies poisoned everything. But she was too exhausted, too overwhelmed by the weight of her son in her arms. You can hold him. Just for a minute. Lance took Elijah with hands that trembled, held him like he was made of glass and prayers. He looked at this baby boy who was not his blood, who he had no legal right to, and tears slipped down his face. Hello, Elijah. I'm so glad you are here. I'm so glad you are safe. Diana watched Lance with her son and felt something inside her chest shift. Not forgiveness, not trust, but recognition that whatever lies Lance told about his wealth, His love for Elijah was real. His devotion was real. And right now, that had to be enough. The judge postponed the trial for a week to allow Diana to recover. Jack did not come to the hospital, did not call, did not acknowledge his son's birth. Lance stayed every night, sleeping in the chair beside Diana's bed, changing diapers, bringing her water, helping her navigate the overwhelming responsibility of keeping a tiny human alive. On the 5th day, Diana finally spoke to him about something other than baby logistics. "Why did you lie to me about who you are?" Lance was holding Elijah, rocking him gently while Diana rested. "Because I was terrified. I have been a billionaire since I was 23. Every woman I ever dated wanted me for my money. Every relationship was transactional. When I met you at that gala, you did not know who I was. You talked to me about art and music and dreams, like I was just a person. For the first time in my life, someone saw me, not my bank account. When I saw you with Jack 3 months later, I could not let you go. So I took the job as his servant because I needed to be near you, to make sure you were safe. And when you finally needed me, when you were broken and alone, I could not tell you the truth because I was terrified you would think I was just another rich man trying to buy you. You should have told me before we got married. I know, I wanted to 100 times, but I was scared you would leave, that you would never trust that my feelings were real. I made a terrible choice, Diana. I chose deception over honesty, and I am so sorry." Diana looked at him, holding their son. "I have been in love with you for months. I fell for the man who knelt on my bathroom floor and held me while I cried. I fell for the man who read stories to my belly and promised my son a father who would never abandon him. But I do not know if that man was real or if he was just a character you played. He was real. I am real. The billions do not change who I am, Diana. They are just numbers. They do not define me. Yes, they do. They define everything. They define how you see the world, how you solve problems, how you move through life. You live in a reality I cannot understand." Lance set Elijah in the bassinet beside the bed and knelt in front of Diana the way he had so many times before. "Then teach me your reality. Show me how to see the world through your eyes. I know I messed up. I know I should have told you sooner. But I love you, Diana. I love you more than I have ever loved anything. Please, give me a chance to make this right." Diana wanted to say yes, wanted to forgive him and move forward and pretend the lies did not matter. But trust was not something she could rebuild in a hospital room. "If you ever lie to me again about anything, I will take Elijah and disappear where your billions cannot find us. Do you understand?" "I understand. From now on, you are going to be completely transparent about everything. Your wealth, your business, your life. No more secrets, no more games. I will give you access to everything. Bank accounts, property deeds, business documents. You will know exactly who I am and what I own. I am not ready to forgive you yet. I love you, but I do not trust you. Trust is something you are going to have to earn back slowly, day by day, with actions that prove you meant everything you said. I will earn it back, however long it takes." They returned to court 10 days later, Elijah in Diana's arms, and Judge Patricia Williams reconvened the trial to hear closing arguments. Chapter 9. The Reckoning. Judge Patricia Williams returned her verdict on a Friday morning, while Diana sat in the courtroom holding her 10-day-old son. The judge was a black woman in her 60s with silver hair and eyes that had seen every trick, every manipulation, every lie that people told when fighting over children. She looked at Diana, then at Lance, then at Jack, and Diana could not read her expression. "This case has troubled me deeply," Judge Williams began. "We have 2 men of considerable wealth fighting over a child. One man contributed biology. The other contributed presence. The law is clear that biological fathers have rights. But the law also recognizes that the best interests of the child must come first." Diana held Elijah tighter. Lance sat forward in his chair. Jack looked confident, like he had already won. Jack Napier, you divorced your wife in a public, humiliating manner while she was pregnant with your child. You did not know about the pregnancy, which is true. But your actions demonstrate a pattern of cruelty and disregard that concerns me greatly. You claim you want to be a father, but you only became interested in this child when you learned another man was raising him. That is not fatherhood. That is ownership. Jack's lawyer started to object. Judge Williams silenced him with a look. Lance Morris, you have demonstrated consistent care and devotion to both Diana Ross Morris and her unborn child. You were present at medical appointments. You provided financial and emotional support. You married Diana knowing she was carrying another man's child, and you have treated that child as your own from the beginning. This court recognizes that your actions define fatherhood far more than Mr. Napier's biological contribution. Diana felt tears slip down her face. Elijah made a small sound against her chest, and she kissed his forehead. Therefore, I am granting full custody to Diana Ross Morris, with Lance Morris named as Elijah's legal father, with full parental rights. Jack Napier will be given supervised visitation twice a month until Elijah turns 5, at which point this arrangement will be re-evaluated. Mr. Napier, you will have the opportunity to build a relationship with your son, but you will do so under supervision, and you will do so with the understanding that fatherhood is earned through actions, not demanded through biology. The gavel came down. Jack stood immediately, his face twisted with fury, and stormed out of the courtroom without looking back. His lawyer followed, already talking about appeals that would never succeed. Diana broke down, holding her son. Lance wrapped his arms around both of them, and for the first time in a month, Diana let him. She buried her face against his shoulder and cried from relief and exhaustion, and the overwhelming realization that her son was safe, that Jack could not take him, that they had won. But winning the custody battle did not solve everything else. That night, Lance drove them home to the mansion Diana had barely looked at since discovering the truth about his wealth. It was massive, ridiculous, the kind of home that belonged in magazines featuring celebrities and their estates. 40 rooms, staff quarters, a pool, a yard that went on forever. Everything she never wanted, never asked for, could never have imagined needing. Lance carried Elijah inside while Diana walked through rooms she had avoided for weeks, seeing them now with clear eyes. This was Lance's real life, this wealth, this excess, this world she did not belong to and never would. She found him in the nursery he had prepared, the one she refused to acknowledge. Blue walls, a crib that probably cost more than her car. Toys and books and everything a baby could need, arranged with care that made her chest ache. "We need to talk," Diana said from the doorway. Lance looked up from where he was placing Elijah in the crib. "I know." They went downstairs to the living room that felt more like a hotel lobby than a home. Diana sat on a couch that was too expensive to be comfortable and stared at the man she married, trying to reconcile the servant who read stories to her belly with the billionaire who owned this mansion. "I do not know if I can ever trust you again," she said. Quietly, "I understand. You lied to me for 2 years. You built our entire relationship on deception. You let me struggle and suffer when you could have solved every problem with a phone call. You manipulated me, Lance. You played a role and I fell for it, and now I do not know what was real and what was performance. Everything was real except the money. My feelings for you have never been a lie. The way I cared for you, the way I showed up, the way I fought for you and Elijah, that was all real. I only hid my wealth because I was terrified you would think I was trying to buy you or save you or own you the way Jack did. You should have told me before we got married. I know. I wanted to. I tried 100 times. But I was scared that if you knew the truth, you would think everything between us was fake. I needed you to know that I loved you for who you are, not because I was trying to rescue you." Diana looked at him sitting across from her in this living room that belonged in a different world. "I've been in love with you for months. I fell for you somewhere between your patience and your kindness and your constant presence. I fell for the man who knelt on my bathroom floor and held me while I cried. I fell for the man who read stories to my belly and promised my son a father who would never abandon him. But I do not know if that man was real or if he was just a character you played. He was real. I'm real. The billions do not change who I am, Diana. They are just numbers in accounts. They do not define me. Yes, they do. They define everything. They define how you see the world, how you move through it, how you solve problems. You live in a reality I cannot understand, where money fixes everything, where you can buy solutions to problems that destroy people like me. Then help me understand your reality. Teach me how to see the world through your eyes. I know I messed up. I know I should have told you sooner. But I love you, Diana. I love you more than I have ever loved anything, and I am begging you for a chance to make this right. Diana felt fresh tears burn behind her eyes. If you ever lie to me again about anything at all, I will take Elijah and disappear where your billions cannot find us. I will make sure you never see either of us again. Do you understand? I understand. From this moment forward, you are going to be completely transparent about every aspect of your life, your wealth, your business, your properties, everything. No more secrets, no more games. Done. I will give you access to everything. Bank accounts, property deeds, all of it. You will know exactly who I am and what I own. I'm not ready to forgive you yet. I love you, but I do not trust you. Trust is something you are going to have to earn back slowly, day by day, with actions that prove you meant everything you said. I will earn it back. However long it takes, I will prove to you that my love was never a lie. Diana stood, walked to where Lance sat, and took his face in her hands. Then she kissed him, not gently, not sweetly. She kissed him with all the anger and love and confusion warring inside her chest. She kissed him like she was trying to figure out if anything between them had ever been real. When she pulled back, both of them were breathless. I love you, she whispered. I hate that I love you, but I do. And I am going to stay because I want to build something real with you. But you are going to sleep on the couch until I decide otherwise. You are going to prove every single day that you are the man I thought I married. Not just a billionaire playing pretend. Deal. And if you ever lie to me again, Lance Morris, I will destroy you. I will take everything you love and make sure you spend the rest of your life regretting it. Do you believe me? Yes. Good. Diana left him sitting in that living room and went upstairs to check on Elijah. She stood over her son's crib, watching him sleep with tiny fists curled beside his face. And she made a silent promise that no matter what happened between her and Lance, her son would grow up knowing he was loved, wanted, chosen every single day. Behind her, she heard Lance climb the stairs, heard him pause outside the nursery door, watching them. She did not tell him to leave. She did not invite him in either. They stood in that uncertain space, connected by love and divided by betrayal. And neither of them knew yet if what they had built could survive the truth. Chapter 10, The Verdict That Frees Them. Lance slept on the couch for 3 months. Not because Diana forced him to stay there after the first week, but because he refused to return to their bedroom until she explicitly invited him back. Every morning she woke to find him already awake, making breakfast, holding Elijah while she showered, proving through small actions that he meant every promise he made. He gave her access to everything, bank accounts that made her dizzy when she saw the numbers, property deeds for homes she did not know existed, complete transparency about his wealth and how he built it. Diana spent weeks examining his life with the scrutiny of someone who had been lied to and refused to be fooled again. She found no hidden agendas, no secret manipulations, just a man who built an empire and then walked away from it to kneel on a bathroom floor beside a woman who needed him. She watched him with Elijah, watched him change diapers at 3 a.m. without complaint, watched him read stories with voices for every character, watched him hold their son like he was made of glass and promises, watched him become the father he swore he would be, and slowly her anger began to soften into something else. Diana returned to the boutique, but only part-time. Catherine understood when Diana explained she needed to be home with her baby, that she was trying to figure out her marriage, that she was rebuilding trust that had been shattered. On her first day back, Lance showed up during her lunch break with Elijah in a carrier and sandwiches from the cafe where they used to talk for hours. "I thought you might be hungry," he said, and Diana let him stay. They started talking again, really talking, not just coordinating schedules and baby logistics. Diana told him how his deception made her feel, and she did not soften the words to spare his feelings. She told him about the nights she lay awake, wondering if anything between them had been real, about the way she looked at him now and saw a stranger wearing a familiar face. Lance listened without defending himself, without making excuses, just absorbed her pain like penance. "I cannot undo what I did," he said one evening while they sat in the nursery together, Elijah asleep between them. "I cannot go back and tell you the truth from the beginning. But I can spend every day proving that my love was never fake, that everything between us was real, except the money. Will you give me that chance?" Diana looked at this man who'd been sleeping on a couch for 3 months without complaint, who woke up every morning determined to earn back what he lost. "I'm giving you that chance. But you need to understand something, Lance. Trust is not given. It is earned. And you broke mine completely. It is going to take time, maybe years. You need to be okay with that uncertainty." "I am okay with it. I will wait as long as it takes." 6 months after the custody battle, Diana woke one morning and realized she had stopped questioning every word Lance said. The constant vigilance that had exhausted her for months had begun to fade, replaced by something that felt almost like trust. That night, she found Lance on the couch where he still slept, reading by lamplight. She stood in the doorway watching him until he looked up. "Come to bed," she said quietly. "Diana, you do not have to." "I am not asking because I have to. I'm asking because I want to. Come to bed, Lance." He followed her upstairs, and they lay in their bedroom in the dark. The careful distance between them finally dissolved. Diana reached for his hand under the covers. "I trust you again," she whispered. "Not completely. Not the way I did before, but enough to believe you when you say you love me. Enough to believe this can work. I will never betray that trust again. I swear to you." I know. 6 months after that, Diana told Lance she was ready to be his wife in every way. Not because she felt obligated, but because she had watched him prove himself day after day, had seen him transparent and vulnerable and true. She had seen him love her son with a devotion that had nothing to do with biology and everything to do with choice. She had fallen in love with him all over again, this time knowing exactly who he was. 1 year after the custody battle, they renewed their vows. Not in a courthouse this time, but in a ceremony with Diana's family present. Her mother, who cried and apologized for doubting her daughter's judgment. Her sisters, who had watched Lance prove himself worthy over months of family dinners and ordinary moments that revealed character. They stood under flowering trees in the backyard of the mansion that Diana was learning to call home. And Judge Patricia Williams officiated because she had become a friend. "Do you, Diana Ross Morris, take this man to be your husband, knowing everything you know now, choosing him with full awareness of who he is and who you are together?" Diana looked at Lance holding Elijah on his hip, at this man who loved her enough to wait, to fight, to let her heal in her own time, and she felt certainty settle into her bones. "I do. I choose him. I choose us." When Judge Williams pronounced them married, Lance kissed Diana like it was the first time and the 1,000th time all at once. Elijah squealed between them, and Diana's mother started crying, and her sisters cheered. And for the first time since her life imploded on that stage, Diana felt completely whole. They danced in their living room that night after everyone left. Elijah asleep upstairs, the house quiet around them. Diana rested her head on Lance's chest and listened to his heartbeat. "Do you regret it?" Lance asked quietly. "Any of it? The pain I caused?" Diana thought about it honestly. I regret that you lied. I regret the months we wasted rebuilding trust that should never have been broken. But I do not regret us. I do not regret Elijah. I do not regret choosing to stay and fight for this marriage. I will spend the rest of my life making sure you never regret choosing me. I know you will. They swayed together in the darkness, two people who found each other in wreckage, who survived betrayal and custody battles and their own stubborn pride. They had built something real from ashes, something unshakable, something that proved the greatest love stories are not the ones that start perfectly, but the ones that survive everything and choose each other anyway. Diana Ross and Lance Morris, a woman who learned to trust again, and a man who learned that love without honesty is just another kind of lie. They built a family born from pain that became joy. They taught their son that fatherhood is about showing up every single day with your whole heart. They taught each other that forgiveness is not weakness, but the hardest kind of strength. Their story did not end with happily ever after, because life is not a fairy tale. But it did end with happiness earned, with love chosen deliberately every morning, with trust rebuilt brick by brick until it became something stronger than before. And sometimes that is better than any fairy tale ever written.